call this meeting to order. It's Monday, September 9th, and I'll ask the town clerk to call the roll.
Kelly Morrissey.
Here.
Christopher Poulos.
Here.
Michael Riccio.
I'm here.
Victoria Triano.
Here.
John Barry.
Here.
William Diedzik. Tom Lombardi.
Here.
Dawn Maselli.
Present.
Christopher Palmieri.
Here. Before we stand for the prayer, after we finish with our prayer and flag salute, I'm going to ask everyone to stay standing for a moment of silence in remembrance of Julia Bruno, who was a Southington High School senior that tragically lost her life. So I'd ask everyone to remain standing after the flag salute for a moment of silence. Okay, so I'll turn it over to Councilwoman Morrissey for the prayer.
Dear Heavenly Father, we come to you this evening asking for your direction and guidance. Keep us focused tonight on what is best for Southington and her people. Amen.
Amen. And if I can ask Donna Ayer from Bread for Life to lead us in the flag salute.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. So just to start off the meeting while we're on that, for the moment of silence, I'd just like to take a moment and really acknowledge many members of this community. And I spoke to the Bruno family today, and they actually asked me to relay their thanks and appreciation for the way this community has supported them and is continuing to support them. It was a horrible loss, and they're very appreciative of the community's support. I'd also just like to acknowledge, first of all, seniors at Southington High School who did a phenomenal job. I know Councilwoman Triano, Councilman Riccio, and myself attended the vigil at the high school organized by the students. And it was really touching to see them organize such an event and see so many members of the community come out for a great tribute to her. I'd also like to thank members of the Board of Education, and I mean K-12, elementary school, middle school, high school, that the family attended. The amount that they've been doing and trying to do for the family and for other kids is really, really admirable, and I'd like to acknowledge and thank them. And on our town side, especially the police department and youth services. We're incredibly lucky to live in a community that really comes together at moments of tragedy like this, and we are, hopefully everyone realizes how lucky we are to live in Southington, because that's what we're known for. So just a thanks to the community for that. So with that, moving on, looking for a motion to approve the minutes from our last meeting.
Make a motion to approve.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Abstention.
Okay, and we have 2 abstentions.
3.
So 3 abstentions. Okay. Moving on, council person communications. So first of all, we have a little celebration tonight. We have members of Bread for Life that are here, and I have a proclamation that I'd like to share with all the members here for Bread for Life. And before we do that, I just want to thank all of you for the contributions you make in our community. You make a difference each and every day to those most in need, and we really appreciate what you do for those in town. So with that, I'd like to share with you this proclamation and ask you maybe to come forward. Maybe Donna and Missy, if you'd like to come up on the dais with me, and I can present it to you, and then we'll get a photo with the council and all members that are here for Bread for Life. So please come on up and join me. Okay, so this is a town council official proclamation, and it reads, "Be it hereby known to all that the Southington Town Council hereby offers its sincerest congratulations to the Bread for Life in recognition of their 35th anniversary. On September 10th, 1984, Bread for Life began their service to the Southington community. The mission of Bread for Life is to provide food, fellowship, and a sense of dignity to those in need. They are a nonprofit 501c3 organization with a mission that no one goes hungry in our town. Their vision is accomplished by providing meals served daily in their kitchen, delivered within our senior community to our homebound citizens and to children in the summer. Bread for Life strives to help their clients with their personal needs through referrals to appropriate agencies. They also are a voice to educate our community on hunger and poverty. Bread for Life is able to fulfill this critical mission through the generous support of so many Southington residents, businesses, and foundations. Bread for Life prepares and serves 125 meals a day to those who go to their soup kitchen, as well as those who are homebound and seniors living in poverty. In addition, they do many outreach programs, including their children's summer lunch program, their Fuel for School program, Branford Hall Student Pantry, and mobile food pantries. Now, therefore, I, Christopher J. Palmieri, Chairman of the Southington Town Council, on behalf of the entire Southington Town Council, offer our congratulations to all the individuals that have helped make Bread for Life a success for 35 years. Furthermore, I hereby proclaim that tomorrow, September 10th, 2019, be Bread for Life Day in the town of Southington. Our continued best wishes for many more years to come, given the 9th day of September, 2019. Congratulations.
Well, we're deeply appreciative to the town council and to all the people who make our work possible. And you can see our amazing volunteers, our board of directors, our staff, and we couldn't do this without a huge support from the community. So we're very grateful, and I know we want to take a picture, but we also have gifts for all the town council members because hospitality is part of what we do. So in honor of celebrating our 35th anniversary, we have volunteers, our very talented volunteers, made homemade heart pins because we've been serving from our heart for 35 years. And we also have blessing bags that we have for each of you. And this is a bag that you can keep in your car when you come across someone in need, which we see every day. You can pass it along to them, and it has a water bottle and socks and granola bar and information about Bread for Life, how they can access us for a meal or a grocery bag. So we hope that you use that and share it with somebody that you come across in need. So thank you.
So while they're handing that out, if all the board members for Bread for Life can join us right in front of the dais here, and we'll get together for a group photo.
Oh, thank you. Thank you very much. Get the most massy. I gotta take the purple one in honor of Julia.
Are we going down?
Yes.
Tall people in the back.
I don't think so. I think
Can't see it on my purple screen.
Why don't we stand up?
I think we're in the way.
The official no, we slide over.
Don't do a good job. Don't do a good job. Going right in the front.
They want to see you more than they want to see me anyway.
A hobbit. You're like a hobbit.
I know. You need me to help? Yeah, just
Yeah, that's scary.
Yep.
Thank you. This is wonderful, Missy. Wonderful.
Thank you.
Hi,
Really good
girlfriend.
idea. It's like a pay it forward.
Excellent, excellent.
Thank you.
And they all carry them in their cars.
Fantastic.
I did. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thanks.
Thanks again.
Awesome.
This being in the car for a while. Thank you.
Oh, my God.
I'll see Jared on Wednesday.
Yeah, thank you for that.
I think it's awesome.
Out on the street,
Yeah.
they see someone that's like desperate.
Yeah. Oh, that's great. That's really nice. Thank you so much.
It's a great idea.
thank you.
Came up with that idea.
I just wanted to make sure.
And there goes 3/4 of our audience.
Yep.
I could eat that one.
It's okay. They got lots of work to do.
Yeah.
You have the shorter socks.
Thank you again to the Bread for Life. This is fantastic. Even as we're recognizing you, you're helping others in need. So thank you very much. We appreciate it, and I'm sure we'll put them to good use.
Thank you.
Thank
very
you.
much.
Thank
you.
What a great organization.
Okay, so thank you very much, and we will go on with our meeting. So councilperson communication is still open if anyone has any council member communication.
Just, Mr. Chairman, if I
Sure.
could just mention that we're having a first responders breakfast on 9/11 at the police department. Our firefighters, I'm sorry, this is Rotary of Southington. Our firefighters, our police officers, and AMR, including Dr. Hobart from the emergency room, have all been invited. And certainly, if any of you are around at 6:30 in the morning and you would like to join us at the police station, you're more than welcome. No pressure, though. And we just want to say thank you in a special way, especially on 9/11. And this is one way we thought we could, but we as a community. And of course, we're having the 9/11 Memorial in Plantsville. I would suggest to get there about 10 after 8 in Plantsville. It's a quite moving ceremony, and so if you're there, that would be wonderful. It's going to be tremendous.
Great,
Thank
thank you. Thanks for that reminder. Councilman
Thank you,
Lombardi?
Mr. Chair. I just wanted to relay the message that Councilman Dietzick had a prior commitment this evening at a charity event, so that's why he's not able to attend tonight's meeting.
Okay, thank you for sharing that. Any other council member communication? Vice Chair Maselli?
Yeah, I was able to participate last night, along with the town manager, in our first community-wide dinner under the stars, which was dining for 100 people. It turned out we were 106 people. On Apple Way, we closed the road down, and it was a farm-to-table dinner with all 5 courses from local restaurants, and the proceeds benefit both SOCA, our art center, specifically their all-access program, and LEAF, which donated a lot of the food. And I don't know about you, Mark, but I just felt like the evening was magical. It was special. We had music and glittering lights, and the cars were driving down Main Street, probably wondering, what are those people doing? Jack Perry, you're in the audience. You were there last night as well, and it just was wonderful. And I'm happy in 50 years that I can say I was at that premier event, because it will be an annual undertaking that this community will continue to do. So it was awesome.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Great. Any other council member communication?
Mr. Chairman. Yeah, I have a few things. Big week for the Historical Society. The annual tag sale is in 2 weeks, September 21st, from 9 to 2. They're in the process of still collecting donations that can be organized and set for sale on the 21st on their lawn and in their basement. It'd be a great opportunity, if you haven't been into that lower level, to see some of the improvements they've made. I know the next step is for them to replace the flooring, and they're hoping that from this tag sale they'll earn the funds, they'll raise the funds to do that. Other events that they have scheduled, this Thursday, September 12th at 6 p.m., there is a partnership with the Barnes Museum, and it's called the Unique Historic Treasure. Marie Secondo will be at the Historical Society, and she will share information about the history and also bring some artifacts from the collection over at the Barnes Museum to the Historical Society. Free event, and begins at 6 p.m. at the Historical Society, not the Barnes Museum. Finally, September 14th, that's Saturday, the South End Schoolhouse will be opened from 12 to 3. So people are encouraged to go and take a look at the South End Schoolhouse. They just wanted me to share that in terms of maintenance, the gutters and downspouts were replaced on the exterior of the building. They're doing landscaping upgrades. That's underway. They've cleared the brush from behind the building. The exterior is shaping up. The town staff did give a hand, which we want to be thankful for. And so that's the Historical Society. Last announcement, I was asked by a member of the library to share, and Barnes Museum, Library Board and Barnes Museum, another event. The Friends of the Barnes Museum is holding their annual Night at the Museum raffle. Sorry, this is a raffle, not an event. And so tickets are $20, and each winner will receive a gourmet dinner for 6 at the Barnes on October 24th. The chef from Flair will be there. The raffle tickets can be purchased through October 12th. The drawing will be at the Barnes Museum, and you can get those tickets at Flair, the library, the Historical Society, or at the Barnes. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Great. Any other council member communication? I actually just wanted to update members of the council. I know we all received an email regarding Bradley Memorial Hospital last Thursday, and I know all of the members of the council received that. Since then, I have reached out to Gary Havokin, and we're working to set up a meeting just to see exactly what is happening with that. It's been a while, as we all know, since there's been any update, and as a result of that email, I wanted to make sure that the information that we were told was factual, and some of it, Gary would like to just explain a little bit further. So, meeting has not been set up yet, but hopefully we'll have one in the near future. Yes, Mr. Lombardi.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just to be clear, you're referring to the email from the resident
Correct.
who is involved in her efforts to save Bradley Hospital. It was not an email from the hospital itself.
No.
Thank you.
No, as a result of that email, I
You
reached out to
emailed
the
the
hospital.
hospital.
I reached out to the hospital. Correct.
I just wanted to make sure I was.
No, that's the
referring
right
to same
email.
Yep.
Okay. All right, so moving on, we are now to the fire department presentation. So we took a couple months off for the summer, but as we've been doing every month, we have a different department come and give us an update, an annual update of where they're at and what they've been up to for the year, just to share that with all the residents. And we can hear about a lot of the great things happening in our town departments. And with that, I will turn it over to Chief Butler, who is with the fire department. He's going to share with us an update on where we're at with the fire department since last year.
Well, thank you for the opportunity to be here tonight. When people start thinking about the fire department, this picture is probably the first thing they think of, is that the fire department goes out and all we do in the course of our day is go to fires. Well, needless to say, that may have been the case 30, 40, 50 years ago. Today, the fire service does so much more. We're out in the community with community outreach programs. We run on emergency medical calls. We run rescue calls. We do just about everything. You know, you call us, we'll come out and we'll make a good effort to make sure that we address whatever the citizens' needs are at that time. So I want people to think of the fire department as a little bit more than just this picture. You know, I have a strong belief that getting out into the community, getting our firefighters out in the community, providing additional services to our community is vital for our organization.
Do I hear sign with right now?
Yep.
You time
Ironically
that?
enough.
They're on their way somewhere.
Was
now.
that on cue?
Yeah, right.
Chief?
Just like you
Paid
told the
extra
chief
for
20
that.
after.
Yeah, actually, the mission of the Southington Fire Department is to provide the residents of Southington and those who pass through it with fire and rescue services to protect life and property through prevention, code enforcement, fire suppression, rescue, and emergency medical services. The fire department is made up, we come underneath the Board of Fire Commissioners. In this last year, we've had the addition of 2 new commissioners, Nate Wilson, who has taken over as the chairman, Christine Shanley Buck, who's taken over as the vice chair. Been great additions to the program. They're working very hard to try to move the organization forward also. We're pleased to say that we have a very good working relationship with our commission, and they are very actively engaged in our day-to-day. Board of Fire Commissioners is made up of Nathan Wilson as chairman, Christine Shanley Bucks vice chair, Chris Robertson is the secretary, John Moyce and Mike Bunko serve as commissioners. Southington Fire Department was established on November 12, 1884, 135 years this November. We have 68 volunteer members, and it's broken up in different areas, probationary, fire police, exterior firefighters. We have 4 people on leave of absence. When somebody isn't going to be able to make their call volume because of medical, work-related things, they can go on a leave of absence, and then they come back in, and they don't lose any time within the department. We have a total of 52 interior firefighters, 34 career members for a total of 102 active members in the department. The Southington Fire Department operates from 4 fire stations. We headquarters in Company 1 operate out of North Main Street Station, which has an engine, a ladder company, a rescue company, and a reserve fire engine. Company 2 is West Main Street. They have an engine, a tanker, and a brush truck. Company 3, which is Clark Street, has an engine, a ladder, a rescue, a decon trailer, command unit that is part of the emergency management program project here. So it's for both police and fire. And we have the life safety trailer. And Company 5 is the River Street Station, and they have an engine and a reserve engine assigned to that building. In 2010, we ran approximately 2,009 calls with an average of 5.5 calls per day. In 2018, we ran 2,323 for an average average call per day of 6.3. That's a 15% increase over the last 8 years. Reduction in overtime, which was one of our major guiding principles that were given to me when I took over this position, and we had to accomplish it through changing the response matrix. I was given several tasks to complete when I took over. 1 was reduce the amount of apparatus responding on calls. 2 was reduce overtime. And 3 was to try to find ways to recruit more volunteers. So we've changed the response matrix to reduce the number of apparatus responding on the roads. That reduces our liability to the town. It also reduces wear and tear on the apparatus and saves us in fuel costs. Reducing the number of incidents that are toned out is another big one. We were toning everybody out for everything 24 hours a day, which in turn meant we were having a lot of overtime created because of that. So when I only need 1 piece of apparatus responding to a call, why do I want to dispatch 8 pieces of equipment? So we've reduced all those down. And the other thing we've done is we moved the daytime firefighters to shift assignments to help offset the overtime cost. And as part of that, we ended up having to staff Company 5, which I'll talk about in just a minute.
Chief, before you get on for that, I just want to emphasize too, because you mentioned cutting back on calls and the overtime, and I want to acknowledge you and the department because you've done that, but without impeding the services to our residents. And I think that's important for the residents to know because you're still absolutely making sure that everyone is safe in this town, but you're doing so in a more fiscally responsible way.
And I would like to agree, and I believe that we're actually, as we're moving forward, we're improving the quality of service that we're providing to the citizens.
Excellent.
So, I mean, we have an outstanding department. We really do. I was blessed to take over such a good organization.
Thank you.
Accomplishments for this year, one really big accomplishment for us was Assistant Chief Paul completed his Fire Marshal training program and is now Fire Marshal for the town. That meant he went to school for over 6 months, 3 days a week, putting in a lot of hours studying on his own. I'm very proud of what he's accomplished, and the town should be very happy and proud of the fact that we have Chief Paul's town fire marshal now.
Very happy.
We've increased the call stipends for the volunteers by 10%. If they respond to 25% of the calls, we've increased what they get for each call by 10%. We've also implemented a stipend program for the volunteers attending our training for each month. This will help them build their numbers towards their being able to reach their full tax rebate. So we were looking for ways to be able to do that. As I mentioned earlier, we're now staffing Station 5 24 hours a day. We did that through a combination of splitting up our full-time crew. We used to have the 6 people at the headquarters station. We split them because we could no longer depend on a reliable firefighting service at that end of town, so we ended up having to split that. It was a tough decision to make, but it was one that was in the best interest of the public. We're implementing a new training program to ensure that the department meets the national, state, and industry standards. We had an OSHA audit of our training program about a month and a half ago. They identified some areas that we need to strengthen, and they supported our change to the program. We've developed job descriptions for each position within the fire department. How can we hold somebody accountable if they don't really know what their job is? So we went in and developed that. We've evaluated all the fire department apparatus and developed and updated a replacement plan. We found that our plan that we had in place was a little bit outdated, and we were looking to replace some apparatus that we didn't necessarily need to replace. So we've come up with a new plan, and we're moving forward with that. Volunteer recruitment. Volunteer recruitment is one of the top priorities of the department. One of the things that we've identified is that we need to actively recruit females for the fire service. We're a little bit behind times here in Southington. Most areas of the country, women are a very big portion of what serves the community in the fire department. So we want to actively recruit, and we believe that this is one area that we may be able to increase our volunteer numbers as well. It's a demographic that's been overlooked. Chairman Wilson, when he took over, we had many conversations, and he is committed to the recruitment program. So he established a new recruiting committee. It's made up of both volunteer, career, we have an elected official, we have retired members, we have members of the commission, and it's more of a group effort to try to find ways to recruit more volunteers. The Southington Fire Department needs a strong volunteer workforce. There's no way we can get around that. That's just a fact of life. So we have to find better ways to recruit. The town cannot afford a totally career fire department.
If I could just interject again for a minute, I know the town has taken the lead, so again, I'll ask local businesses if they can assist us. If they have any volunteer firefighters, the town has taken the lead in allowing our town employees that are volunteer firefighters to leave, to go to calls during the workday. So I would encourage all our businesses that employ volunteer firefighters to follow the town's lead and allow them to go and help your career firefighters out during the day. I know it's tough.
Yeah, and that would be a big help to the organization. Absolutely would. Community risk reduction is a concept that we had in place here, but we didn't call it that. We had it broken into a lot of different areas. So one of the things that we did is we said we need to have an aggressive risk management program through active fire and life safety services. It's going to be our best opportunity to minimize loss and human trauma associated with fire and other community risk. And some of the ways we do that are through outreach programs. Our home safety inspection program has been a big hit. We get a lot of calls. They can call the fire department. We'll come out. We'll check their smoke detectors. We'll go through, make fire safety inspections of your home. Look at things. Do you have overloaded extension cords? Do you have extension cords running on your rug? Flammable liquid stored in your home? All kinds of different things. But we go out, and as part of that, we educate people through the process. And this has been an extremely successful program for us. we get quite a few calls, and the Apple Harvest Festival is coming up, and last year, that was a big hit there. We got, I don't remember the number out of that, but it was a significant number of people signed up during the Apple Harvest Festival. So we'll be doing that again this year as well. The Close the Door campaign is another one. Most parents have thought that leaving their children's door open so you can hear them is in their best interest, right up until the point you have a fire. And then that's going to lead to their potential death, because first off, the heat will go into the room. If the door is closed, outside the door can be 2,000 degrees, inside the door can be 100 degrees. Okay? That's the difference. It also blocks the smoke travel into the room, gives people more time to survive, and gives us more of an opportunity to be able to rescue them. So the Close the Door campaign is one that I am very passionate about. And there's UL did a video showing the difference of an open door and a closed door. They basically have made a mock-up simulation. They left one door closed, one door open, lit a fire in the living room. Then they let the fire burn for a little bit. They put it out, and they dropped the side of the building down. And you could see the difference. It looked like you could move into the room where the door was closed, and the room where the door was open was going to have to be totally redone. You'd have to pull all the sheetrock out. That's the difference in it. So this is an important program. Stop the Bleed program is another one that's very dear to me, is getting out and teaching the public how to respond when there's some of these active shooter incidents, active assailant. We go out and we have the ability to get people trained, so if they're there, they have the ability to stop the bleed. That's what the majority of people are dying from in these incidents, is a lack of blood. They bleed out. So we want to get out there, and it applies to coming across an accident, somebody has a serious bleed, they have the ability to help save that individual. So Stop the Bleed is another really big one. Hands-only CPR has been around for a while, but it's proven that it definitely does save lives. So these are programs that we're going to be investing heavily in and presenting to the public in this coming year. And we've started quite a few of these as we're moving forward. So.
We actually just had the hands-only CPR at the last council meeting. We had the presentation, so very timely.
I think it's something that should be taught in the schools, because that's when you start teaching them young, they remember that and going through life, and we get more and more people who are available to help out in time of emergency. Community risk reduction also goes into the public education part. Of course, that's preschool visits, smoke alarm program, which we have a very good smoke alarm program and CO alarm program here. We go through probably more than 100 in a year easily. Anybody who calls, it doesn't matter how rich you are, how poor you are, it doesn't matter. You call us, we'll come out, we'll check your smoke detectors, and if they need to be replaced, we'll replace them. Same way with CO detectors. So, and we're going to be going into the cooler weather here soon, so CO becomes more of an issue for us. So that's important for us. Fire safety for the elderly, that's a demographic that has the highest likelihood of dying in a fire. So we need to have a better outreach for that particular demographic, and we're developing a program for that. Close the Door campaign I've talked about, and of course fire station tours. We're always getting people who want to come and visit the fire station, and we encourage anybody who wants to, especially if you have young kids, to come in. We'll take them around the fire apparatus, let them sit in it, we'll go through that. It's a really good program, and families seem to really like it. Our code enforcement does our fire inspections, plans review, and does our fire safety inspections, and we also have our fire investigation. This year is our 135th anniversary, as I said earlier. We're trying to figure out exactly what we're going to be able to do, but I think we need to recognize the fact that we're celebrating 135 years. Just real quick, we've in time since 1977, we've lost 5 firefighters in the line of duty. And that's something to keep in mind. We lost 2 in 2005. Those were our most recent. And it has a profound effect on the fire service when we lose somebody in the line of duty. Okay. My goal as fire chief is to basically make this one department, not a career department, not a volunteer fire department. It's one department. When people call for the fire department, they don't care who shows up as long as somebody does show up. So we are one department, and that's where we need to be. So, thank you very much.
Thank you, Chief. Okay, so we'll open it up to the council. I know some council members have some questions and follow-up. Vice Chair Maselli?
Oh, you want me to go first? Okay. I love your concluding statement, Chief, about we should be one department, and I totally agree. But I will, and I also appreciated your slide on the volunteer recruitment. But I do remain concerned about our volunteer contingent. There have been a couple of meetings since the budget proceedings that I've been involved with, and as I noted during, our budget meetings, I just want to ensure that these men, and hopefully soon to be women, feel that they have a voice, feel valued, and receive proper communications from administration, because I'm still getting, I wish it was one department, but it's not. I'm still getting phone calls and communications from volunteers who perhaps don't feel as appreciated as they should be. While I'm thankful for our new Recruitment and Retention Committee that I know you're on, Chris, that's just one initiative. I feel like, and I believe that we need to do more, and that some of the solutions are probably as simple as better communication, more frequent interactions between administration and our volunteer contingent, and even inclusion of some of the volunteers on our various department boards and commissions. I received just recently, where's my paperwork? We just actually lost 2 volunteers. I don't know if it's this week or this month or whatever it may be. I believe one of them is in the in the audience, Mr. Urso, or is that your son? I wasn't sure if you were a senior or a junior. But I got to tell you, the very last line of the resignation letter, and I'm going to read it. I'm going to read it into the record. He says, "Not only do I feel that the volunteers no longer get the respect they deserve, but the position of fire police is no longer any use to this administration, regardless of how much experience you have. I am leaving while I can still say that I'm proud to be a member of SFD, and before someone I have never met gets rid of me." And, so just a concern. But hopefully this is a step forward because, again, I like your sentiments this evening. I'm leaving this council in November, but gosh, I just don't want to see, the line that we saw in a memo or something a couple of months ago where in 10 years we may not have a volunteer contingent. We need to have a volunteer contingent. I'm proud that we still have a paid and an unpaid component to the fire department, and I hope to see that have very long longevity. I do. I feel that it's a critical part of our community and adds to what's awesome about the town of Southington, and now I'll get off my soapbox. So thank you for listening. It's just my personal concerns.
Councilman Barry?
Yep, thank you, Mr. Chairman. First of all, to all the staff, paid and volunteers, they do a great job, very important to our community. Public safety has to be the #1 priority throughout our community. So thank you to everyone that works so hard there, and they do such good work. And I've heard from constituents of the wonderful people that volunteer and work at the fire department. They do great work for the people of Southington. So thank them very much. I do have a question concerning a memo that you wrote on June 4th of 2019. In that memo, and just explain it to me, because this isn't a memo that we usually get, but it was provided to me. You had requested a transfer of $22,000 out of dedicated volunteer firefighter line to building maintenance. Can you explain that to me?
Yes, actually, I can. I get, every year I get a budget that I have to work with and live within. At the end, we got towards the end of the budget year, and we had excess funds in that particular line, and we had a definite need for this building maintenance project. I don't look at it as volunteer money or career money or whatever. It's the Southington Fire Department's money, and I've been tasked with managing that. And I think I've done a pretty good job. We didn't have to come back to the council or the finance board to ask for funds. We operated within our budget, and at the end of the year, we actually ended up with $125,000 that went back to the general fund. So I think I've done a pretty good job at managing that. So the movement of that money, say that it took it from a dedicated volunteer fund, it's not a dedicated volunteer fund. It's part of the Southington Fire Department's budget. And at the end of the year, there was excess funds there, and we were able to complete a project. That's what we did.
This is not any attack of anything. I'm elected to ask the hard questions. A lot of the questions I don't like to ask, so I feel like it's my duty and a responsibility as someone that is elected by the people to ask some tough questions. So this is no attack. This is just fact-finding information for everyone. The reason why I ask, because it looks like to me, based on the communication in that memo, it's almost a $30,000. Can you tell me what that $30,000, because there was $8,241 available in that line item, and then you needed $22,000 on top of the $8,200, so it's approximately $30,241. What did you need that money for?
That was more than just one project. One was the kitchen replacement, where we had a problem at the headquarters station.
Okay, I'm glad you mentioned problem. Can you elaborate the problem, please?
Yes, actually, the condition of the kitchen was in pretty extreme need of repair. And we had a problem with mold. And
Okay, I'm going to stop you right there, and I'll tell you why. Because on June 25th, I contacted the health director, and I asked the health director to go down to the fire department to do an inspection on mold. He responded to me on the 26th of June saying that he did not find any mold at the fire department. So,
but did he go on
please
to
just
say?
please, I'm the councilman. I'm just going to ask the questions and you can respond. And I could, I have all the documentation. It was a concern to me when I heard that there was mold. And I also was interested in that tour. He toured the whole building, and he was there with a top person that's part of your staff.
Okay.
And they certainly knew the health director was there to investigate mold. And in the communication that I talked about, I said, well, it's good that there was a top person in the department that was there with the health director, because I would think that person has a duty and moral responsibility to tell the health director if they suspected mold or if they had cleaned it themselves. So it was interesting. The health director goes down there based on information that was provided to me that there was mold at the fire department. The health director found no mold. Fine, things happened. Maybe you cleaned it up. You didn't feel like any need to tell the health director there was mold. No problem. So the health director then had other communication. So let's fast forward. So I get a call from the health director that he is going down to the fire department to look at behind a dishwasher. And you were there when I came in, and it was interesting for me. So certainly we don't want any paid people to be exposed to mold. It's very important. So the dishwasher was pulled out, and there was no mold there. Now, the health director did say there's certainly no active mold. He said it to me in communication that he sent to me. He said, well, maybe they cleaned the mold. So there was no mold. Just when he went on June 26th, there was no mold based on his communication. And then when the health director went again to pull out the dishwasher, there was no mold. So I felt like your memo that was dated on June 4th wasn't really accurate based on the facts that were, that was uncovered by the health director. So I'm just curious, how do you explain all this?
Very simply. We knew that there had been mold there. Yes, it had been cleaned up. We were also very concerned that the mold was behind those cabinets that we couldn't pull out without doing demolition. When the company came in that was hired to remove the cabinet, they found a severe mold problem, which required them to remove several courses of sheetrock to get rid of the problem. So we were aware that there was a problem, and it had been cleaned up, but we couldn't necessarily clean it all up unless we removed the cabinets. To remove the cabinets meant they had to be replaced. So all that kind of fits right together. I mean, I was made aware that we had a mold problem. Okay. Did I go in and pull the cabinets out in the course of my job? No. I believe that I trust my officers to give me factual information, and as it turned out, it was factual information, and so we moved forward. There was nothing, as it seems to be inclined here, is that there was something dishonest or sneaky about it. The kitchen needed to be replaced. I mean, that's a fact of life. And the mold was there, yes, when they pulled the dishwasher out, not that day, a month earlier, they had cleaned up all that mold that was there. And as the health director said, you could see that had been cleaned up. But we couldn't get to areas behind those cabinets. So I believe we were proved to be correct in what we did.
Okay. So I guess my question is, one of the questions I asked you when I saw you that day is, did you go out to bid for the new kitchen? And you said you didn't have to. Can you explain, did you go out to bid or not?
At the
Because you're talking about you needed $30,000.
Not for one project.
Okay.
Not one project. The
Yep.
kitchen was one of, I believe, I remember what the other projects were, but it wasn't just the kitchen project that money was
Okay,
allocated.
but put yourself in my shoes. I get a memo dated June 4th. You are very explicit in your communication, and you call it black mold. So it seems pretty urgent and pretty serious. So then I asked the health director to go down there and check it out. He doesn't find any mold on that when he toured it with a top person in your staff. And that top person never mentioned to the health director that there was mold found prior to your memo of June 4th, when they knew the health director was there to check out mold. Put yourself in my shoes.
Okay.
I'm a councilman. People give me this information. I'm following up on it. So then we go a month later from your memo, and then the health director tells me he's going down to pull out a dishwasher. I said, I'll go with you. No mold back there. He said maybe there was evidence that it was cleaned up. But I just want you to put yourself in my shoes. I'm just trying to find the facts. The kitchen had to be replaced. I'd have no problem, you need a new kitchen. I just felt didn't know how to handle it because I had the health director who's an expert on this type of stuff who couldn't find mold. If there was mold there, maybe there was a week before he wrote the memo. I don't know, I don't care. I just wanted to say that the type of communication, it just put me as a council person in a hard position. I'm just trying to look out for the people, the taxpayers. And I just felt it was, there's no one's ever seen any mold except I guess you and your staff, but then when the staff was there with the health director, they don't even tell them there was mold. So that's all. I mean, I think I wanted to.
Point of order, what's the point here? I mean, shouldn't this have been handled with a meeting with the fire chief and the town manager months ago, or are we waiting here to put the guy on the spot on television?
Well,
I don't understand what we're doing.
I think it's important for transparency. I
But
don't have private
the fire
meetings.
chief, hold on one second, you've been talking for 20 minutes. The fire chief stood here at the podium and said that the contractor pulled the cabinets out, it was loaded with mold. He said that there was mold behind the dishwasher that was cleaned. If there was mold there, there was mold. I don't understand what the point is. The kitchen, I've seen it, was a disaster, and it needed to be replaced. If it's under $10,000, does it have to go out to bid, Mark? No. Sounds like it was $8,000 and change to me. I mean, if you want to accuse the fire department officials of lying, then say that. But I don't understand what your point is.
I guess I somewhat don't believe it.
Okay,
I
well,
just
that's-
don't believe it.
that's unfortunate.
And, I don't believe it because based on the health director's inspection down there. So that's why I brought it up. I'm not into private meetings, behind the scene meetings. I wanted this transparent. I found the memo interesting. I found the information that was provided to me is rather concerning as a council person. I don't just sit here and rubber stamp every department head and everyone, oh, yeah. It's not how I operate. Now, if there's mold, there's mold. Health director was never informed that there was mold cleanup. I think it's kind of unusual in a municipal building. But I think going forward, if you needed a new kitchen, say you need a new kitchen. If you're telling me that kitchen was under $10,000, is that what you're telling me?
It was, that project was broken into,
How much did the new
contractor
kitchen
was
cost?
less than 10,000. We did, the cabinets is separate. The bottom line was, we were at the end of a budget year as well. We were under those constraints as part of this as well. And you know and I know that this has happened many, many times before when we get to the end of a budget year. So, and if you want to say that I lied, yes, please do say I lied, and I will be.
All right, if we can move on,
All right,
please.
listen, thank you very much. I appreciate all the work everyone does at the fire department. I think I made my point, and I'm very strong with my point, and I believe what I said based on the facts that were provided to me.
Okay. Councilman Lombardi?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would just ask a question through you, Mr. Chair,
Sure.
to Councilman Barry, if he has reached out to the Fire Commission on this issue, and if they have responded to him directly, because as we all know on the council, the fire department reports to the Fire Commission, as was just outlined in the presentation. So I would like to ask Councilman Barry if he did ask the Fire Commission these questions and raise his concerns to the commission.
I did not have a communication with
Thank you.
the chairman of the fire board.
Wouldn't that be the most appropriate place? We
No,
just saw
I-
a slide presentation here that shows
Thank you, Mr.
the order
Chair.
of command, and it comes under the Fire Commission.
All right.
I want to make one point here because it's important to me. In all my years serving here, whether it was planning and zoning or the town council, I have been adamantly opposed to putting staff on the podium in front of a television camera and then trying to cut them out at the knees. I think it's disgusting. If you have an issue on this town council, it should be handled through the manager or any commission that they come under, and not make someone stand up here and do what Mr. Barry
Well,
just
we
did.
just have
It's
a different style,
unfortunate.
Mike. I'm very direct.
No, yeah, I'm not
honest,
an ambush guy.
Thank-
All right, if we can move
absolutely.
on, please, Councilwoman Morrissey, go ahead.
So thank you very much for your presentation. I liked how you talked about how you're reviewing policies and procedures pertaining to apparatuses and how you replace them and the progress that we're on to make sure that we're spending dollars appropriately. And I want to make sure that you and the team are continuing to do that for anything policy and procedure related that could help the volunteers increase. So, if there's an old policy that was written 50 years ago that doesn't necessarily pertain to how we run our lives today, can we look at that and, would that afford more volunteers the opportunity to volunteer when they have the time? Just so are we already taking a look at all those policies and procedures? And if we're not, can we do that? Because I think anything that can help increase that volunteer recruitment, as you said, is much needed.
We definitely are reviewing all of our policies and procedures. So there's the rules and regulations through the Fire Commission is under revision currently. We're going through all of our policies and procedures and updating and making sure that they meet today's standards. So yes, we are.
Can I ask a follow-up question?
Sure.
So when they meet today's standards, is there any leeway in how the policies are written where we have choices to make as a town to say, we'd like to do the policy this way because that affords, our population, which is, a 9-to-5 population that have other jobs, and we don't have a lot of, people that work nights, or, based on the population density and what our demographics look like, do we have the option to kind of swing things so that more people can volunteer? Like, I know I could never volunteer because I don't have, days free and I can't get here on days. Is there something that could swing things to help people so that they can be, the fire department can be more accommodating to volunteers?
I don't know the answer to that one. That's the big question that the entire country is trying to figure out. One of the downsides to the fire service today is the requirements that are put in place that require us to do certain things. I will tell you, when I started in the fire service, I joined on a Monday night, I rode on a fire engine on Saturday and had not 1 minute's training. But I'll also tell you, that very first night that I rode, I got hurt. Why? Because I did not have the training necessary to perform the skills that needed to be performed. And back then, it was 60 hours of training. Now it's 100 and some hours of training. It's a very time-consuming position. For volunteers, for everybody, it's a very time-consuming task for them to do. We have some absolutely fantastic volunteers in this town that step up and meet the requirements, and they do a fantastic job. I look at them and say, this is the example of what we can do. So I believe that, you know, we're trying to make every effort we can to be accommodating, but at what point do we say accommodating means that we have less skilled people to respond on the apparatus, and at the time of emergency isn't the time to try to train somebody to do something.
I agree with that 100%, but I also think that there's, you know, there must be some wiggle room in how we're producing, or we should look to see if there's wiggle room in how we're writing the policies and procedures to make sure that we can accommodate the most of the population that we possibly can. That's all I'm saying.
And I agree with that. I do. I agree with you 100%. It's that magic question.
Great. Councilman Ricchio and then Triano.
Oh, go ahead, Vicki.
No, Chief, I just wanted to apologize to you for the impugning of your integrity tonight. I want to ask you a question, Chief, and that is, were you approached by Mr. Berry in preparation for tonight? Did he say to you, by the way, I want to talk to you about the kitchen, and I want to talk to you about the assignment of funds prior to your coming tonight?
No.
Yeah. So this happened in June. We're now in September, and tonight, Mr. Berry has decided to attack your integrity and not giving you the opportunity to speak the truth, not being able to present the facts as they are. It's horrendous that this happened to you tonight. And on my part of it, I want to apologize to you because you have come in and done such a wonderful job. Now, is it perfect? Is everything perfect on both sides? Of course not. It's a work in progress, but I don't want to take away from you. And what happened tonight was not right. It was bullying at its worst. It was setting you up. It was making you to look bad and your department bad, and this is no place for that at all in government. It was horrendous, and I just want to apologize to the entire department, both volunteer and paid. Thank you, Chief.
Just so you know, I have a right to ask any question I
You can
want,
ask
and please
anything
don't
you
apologize. My
Listen,
question was appropriate. I
you
stand.
set
I stand.
somebody up.
I
All right,
did not.
please.
Listen,
was
the
disgusting,
political
John.
season has
Please.
started. Attack John Barry,
No,
destroy him for political reasons.
Please, we're out of order.
Clear.
We're out
That's
of
quite
order,
clear.
please.
I have a right to say what I
John.
want, speak my mind, ask the hard questions,
John.
and I will to all staff, to anyone that
All
I
right,
feel
we're
is
out of
wrong.
order, please.
And I
Disgusting,
can't
John.
stand this.
John,
It's terrible.
Councilman Ricchio.
Thank you. Thank you. I just wanted to say, I think the most important thing that came out of tonight's presentation was the all call. And I think it's been something that's frustrated members of the council and people in the community not understanding it. And what you guys have done, I think, is not only have you reduced the hours that we have to pay, but there are so many volunteers, as we're hearing, and to reduce the amount of times that volunteers get called away from their families when it might potentially not be necessary. And then on top of that, we always see we're buying apparatuses. We space them out, but putting less miles on the trucks and on the cars and all that stuff, I think, is a great thing. So I wanted to say thank you for not just to you, but to the entire staff for putting your heads together to reduce the number of all calls. I think is very important financially for the town of Southington. And I also wanted to say I had two questions that came up in my world regarding the fire department in the last couple of weeks, and I called the town manager. One of them was taken care of instantly, and then I called a member of the fire commission as recently as a couple of days ago, and that was solved immediately too. So I wanted to thank you guys for jumping on top of that.
Councilman Poulos?
Sure. As you know, Chairman Wilson invited me to participate on the recruitment committee, and I have to say, someone with not much fire experience prior to serving on town council, I'm left impressed with the bravery and the hard work of both the volunteers and the career staff. It's been an eye-opening experience. I'm looking at your
Maybe
slide.
you'll volunteer.
In your spare
Got to
time.
talk to Dr. Poulos about that. So I'm just looking at the slide on page 3, and this is great for me to understand the hierarchy of the department, and I'm wondering where the volunteers fit in. Is there like a parallel structure, or are they below?
They're within the chain of command. When you look down to see the captains, that's the captains
yeah.
for both the career and the volunteers. In the system, if you're a career captain or a volunteer captain, you're a captain.
Okay.
To me, there's no difference
Sure.
in that.
So-
If you're a volunteer lieutenant or a career lieutenant, that's what you are. You're a lieutenant. You're not a volunteer or a career. And I have spoken at length with the volunteers about this. In my first 6 months on the job, I met no less than 12 times with the volunteer officers. It's not that there hasn't been a lack of conversation.
Yeah, no, I'm not alluding to that. I was curious. So like a volunteer captain and a career captain
They're
have like the
captains.
same job description.
They
more
do
or
have
less
the
in
exact
term-
same job description with a couple requirements that the career have based on the union contract.
Sure. I appreciate that clarification. One more question, just for my own knowledge. I look on page 5 of your slide deck where it talked about volunteer members. Probationary firefighter makes a lot of sense to me. Exterior versus interior firefighter, it's pretty straightforward. I'm just curious what an LOA is.
Leave of absence.
Oh, someone on leave of absence.
That's one of
Okay.
those people who has identified that they're not going to be able to make their run calls and make their mandatory training in a period of time.
I see.
They can request a leave of absence, which excuses them until they return
Okay.
back. Otherwise, at a certain point, you've missed so much training and so much time that under the policies that have been established, it would mean that they would end up having to reapply if they wanted to continue on.
Sure.
But leave of absence means they get to stay.
I understand. So one last follow-up question. How does the role of fire police differ from the other positions?
Okay, one of the things that, when I look at the role of the fire service, one of my jobs as fire chief is to ensure that everybody operates safely and comes home from every call. One of the most dangerous places that we operate today are on the roadways. Every single day in this country, police, fire, or EMS is struck on a roadway. The police officers are being struck at the rate of twice the number of firefighters, but that's because that's where they are. So the fire service, the police department, and a lot of other agencies got together and they developed a program. They would prefer that we don't use human assets to direct traffic. We block the roadway with a piece of fire apparatus because people get distracted, and when they get distracted, what happens? Okay, I would rather have to put $25,000 into a repair of a piece of apparatus than have to put somebody into the ground in the cemetery, because drivers today are so distracted. They've got so many things going on. So the concept of fire police has kind of gone away. And I've discussed this with our own local police department, and they have some concerns as well. If somebody blows past a fire police, what recourse do they have? None. They just like anybody else. If they blow past a police officer, the police officer has the ability to stop and arrest. Okay? And even the police now are having us block roads with the apparatus because so many of them are being killed on roadways today. So the concept of fire police has changed. It's basically what's happened is it's a concept that is no longer in the best interest of those doing it and for the organization. I would rather block the roadway with a piece of fire apparatus that if something happens, we're not going to have to take somebody to the hospital or have to go for a line of duty death.
So, so is it my understanding that the fire police are being phased out? And if so, is there a plan to transition them into an interior or exterior volunteer firefighter to
Actually,
keep our numbers up on the volunteer force?
Most of the, Okay, my concern with numbers is to making sure I have enough members who can respond on the apparatus or respond to the scene to do the actual fire department job. People in the Southington Fire Department have heard me say this many times. Everybody has a lane. The fire department has a lane, the police department has a lane. I like the fire department to focus on our lane and let the police department focus on their lane. So most of these members, they're probably too old to be on the fire side, or they don't want to do it, or they have a fear of heights, or there's a lot of different reasons. But we're down, there's only 5 of them left, and, 2 of them will be around for a while. It's up to the commission to what the fate of the fire police is. It's not up to me. The fire commission is the one that makes that decision.
Thanks for all that clarification. It's a learning experience for me, but I have to say that the experience has been a great one. I've learned so much, and I'm very proud of our fire department, both volunteer and career.
But now that I've just heard all of this, you're right. Great explanation. No more this evening. That's a positive thing. I hope that we can then reutilize those 5 people, find something for them of value within our department, even though it is only 5. Nonetheless, I mean,
I agree.
Actually, the recommendation would be is that because the CERT gets involved in parking and things through the police department,
Yes.
That CERT may be a place for them to go, to be part of the community and still volunteer and give back to the community and serve the citizens of Southington.
but they won't have the camaraderie of the fire department where maybe some of them have been for decades. I don't know who the 5 people are, so at this point, I'm just speaking off the top of my head.
Yeah.
I think
I understand that that's
I-
part of the whole volunteerism thing is the
Yeah.
camaraderie within the department.
Numbers can be deceiving.
Okay.
And that's one of our problems, is that when I look at numbers, I'm looking at for the numbers who can actually benefit the citizens when they call for an emergency. And right now, the fire police have done a great job for this town, but the concept of fire police has outlived its usefulness within what we do. The roadways are just too busy, and they're getting to the point where they're too dangerous.
One more question that just came to mind. Is there any mechanism for someone like a fire police officer or a volunteer to be able to weigh in on the future of their position? Or do changes just take place and then they either have to, they leave or whatever? Is there a way for them to say, hey, here's like a sounding board or an opportunity for them to weigh in? Is there?
Yes, it's called the commission meeting every month.
Okay.
They have the ability to go and
To speak at the
anybody can
commission
get up
meeting.
and speak at the commission meeting and
Okay.
speak whatever their view might be.
I hope
Okay.
they do. I hope they go
hope
to
so,
the
too.
commission meeting. And maybe together they can find a spot that Mrs. Maselli was talking about. Because I think that's really important. It's a way to keep them connected to the fire department in a useful way. And it would be nice if they could, that's all.
Mr. Lombardi?
Maybe this is the last comment, but through you, Mr. Chair, I would ask the town manager, we all received a very nice email, I think it was last week or the week before, from a police officer. So can I ask the town manager to just briefly explain that email that was sent to the council?
Well, obviously the chief can do it better than I, but we had a situation where police officers were trying to make a lawful arrest, and perfectly blunt, the people they were trying to make a lawful arrest to were violent to our police officers, and I'd use the word assault, although that's a legal term. And there were 2 firemen who happened to be there at the time, and they both were very helpful to the police department and put themselves in harm's way and assisted the police in the, and you all received that email, and I know it came from Jack Daly, and I know the chief got a copy so that that copy can go into the service records of those individuals. So, so Chief, you can obviously comment on if you wish on that also.
It was one of those cases where we find that the police and fire work very well together. We feel that they have our back when we're in tough times, and they know that we have their back when it's in tough times. And this was just an example of that. The individual became apparently very violent, and the officer was there by himself, and he called for help, and that's what he got. And, I'm very proud of the fact that police and fire in this town work so well together. It's, you don't find that very often. So I'm very, very proud of that fact.
Chief, I want to thank you for the presentation. I know you ended with this, so hopefully we can, I think you've got the message from, I think, the entire council, essentially. We really task you to do whatever you can to merge the volunteer and career firefighters. I know it's a goal of yours, I know it's a goal of the commission, but it's very important to us. So whatever you can do, and if we can assist you in any way, please reach out to us. But we care deeply about both our career and volunteer firefighters, and we want to continue to offer assistance to provide the great service that your department provides to our town. So thank you, and I also appreciate the outreach that you shared with us. So aside from, we think of the fire department as reactionary, there's a lot of outreach that you do throughout the year as well that you outlined for us tonight, and I think that's great to hear that you are trying to be preventative rather than just reactive to everything that occurs in the community.
And I don't take offense to any comments. I don't. That's my job. Okay, so there's no offense to that at all. Okay, so
Thank you.
I mean, everybody on this council has a right to ask questions. I agree.
Thank you.
Thank you,
So-
Chief. And you're an professional. You do your job. We have maybe a disagreement on this, a lack of communication, whatever it might be. I stand by my position. You certainly have yours. It's not personal. It's professional. It's about us both doing our jobs. And for anyone to imply otherwise is not doing their job. So I appreciate that comment very much. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you, Chief. Thank you. Okay, so we're moving on with report of special committees, and the first committee is open space, so I'll turn it over to Vice Chair Maselli, who is the chair of the Open Space Committee.
Sorry, discussing with my colleague. Okay, open space. So, we have something new in town, our pollinator pathway that I'm very excited about. So as I've reported already at a prior council meeting, it seems kind of crazy up here, I can't focus.
Just got an email on it tonight,
What's that?
on the pollinator thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it just came tonight.
An email?
I think so. I'll look again
Okay.
when the time is appropriate. Sorry to interrupt you.
Focus, Dawn, focus. Been a long day. So at the Novick Orchard, we created our first pollinator pathway. Although I have to say, that's the first on our open space parcel, but it's not the first in town because the Kelly School teachers did their pollinator art garden on water department property right outside of the municipal center here. And so Sherry Garino, one of our residents in town, and she, I believe, is also on the Conservation Commission, learned about this pollinator pathway project that other communities in Connecticut are doing. So now Southington is going to get on board, and we're going to start encouraging our residents, our businesses, and especially those people and spaces along Linear Trail to have pollinator pathways. And what's funny was that there was an article in the paper about this a week or so ago after we spoke about it at our Open Space Committee meeting. And I just had a resident call today, and he has a very small farm in town, and he says, I've been doing pollinator gardens all my life. This is great. I want to be part of it and whatnot. And so it's basically just a public awareness campaign that identifies 3 objectives for a pollinator garden, and that is to plant native species, eliminate pesticides, and reduce the lawn area, which unfortunately, while green grass looks awesome, and I know I love it in my front yard and all, it's just not great for our pollinator species. So anyways, you'll be hearing more about the pollinator garden. We are hopeful that we will have a ribbon cutting at our new Novick Orchard pollinator garden coming up at the end of September. At this point, we're losing time. We still have some more plants to plant, and we are waiting for, a good time to do that. So maybe it'll be more in October. Also, let's see, what else? the Farm Heritage Committee. Lots of discussion over the responsibilities or oversight of as a matter of fact, the Novick Orchard Open Space Parcel. I'm hopeful that the two co-chairs of the Farm Heritage Committee will come to an upcoming open space meeting in order to delineate exactly what's under the purview of that commission and what's under the purview of the Open Space Committee, because staff and committee members, we all seem to have some questions, so hopefully we'll get that straightened out. Last but not least, Mr. Curtis, former owner of our Curtis Open Space Parcel, will actually be helping with the upkeep of the Curtis Open Space Parcel, which we heard so much about in the last year because there's going to be a new sewer line over there. But how great that Mr. Curtis will be the maintainer of that property that he knows so well and has been in his family for generations. So very heartening about that, and everything else that we worked on was in executive session. So that's it, Mr. Chair.
Okay. Just one other positive thing to complement what you're saying. We have a staff member now with the Farm Heritage Committee that we haven't had, Dave LaValle. Thank you, through the town manager's office, because he'll function as a liaison between both committees.
He's actually a liaison on the other board, too, so.
Right, well, that's what I mean. We haven't had a staff member assigned with us, so that'll be a huge asset to help moving forward. Any other questions for open space?
I just wanted to say, I'm so happy about these pollinator pathways. It's very exciting. And perhaps there are many folks in town that would like to do that on their property or whatever. And so I'm hoping that open space will provide additional information on the how-to and why and all of that, because I think it's kind of neat to happen all around town. I think it's great.
Yeah.
Right?
To that end, we are actually developing a brochure.
Oh,
That's
great.
in the works right now.
Perfect.
So, and again, no tax dollars used. This is all a volunteer project. I have a designer that I utilize through my school community that is helping us design the brochure. So
Perfect.
all lovely. Someone who lives in town. All good.
Great.
All good stuff.
All right, so moving on to Committee of the Chairs. We basically talked about 3 items, which I'll update everyone on. First was school safety update. I'm really proud of this. If you remember the council, it was the 17-18 budget. If you remember, we had some funds and we allocated funds for 2 projects for the high school. One was the elevator and the other was for the security cameras. So the superintendent gave an update on the status of that. That was through a partnership with the town and the Board of Education, and how phenomenal that is for the operations of the high school, and certainly helped ensure the building is even safer. So that was very positive to hear that update, and that was again through a collaboration between us. Convocation, the superintendent talked a little bit. We had a great speaker come.
Besides me?
Besides you. The town manager was there representing the town, and gave some inspirational words to all, not just teachers, but all the staff at Convocation for the opening of schools. And we really had a phenomenal speaker, Dr. Mark Brackett from the Yale, speaking about emotional intelligence. And what was awesome about it is he came and spoke at our convocation here in Southington. The next day he was on Good Morning America. So
Yeah.
to know he has that national draw, and he was right here talking to an auditorium packed with school employees the day before. So that was all positive. And then, of course, the final collaborative effort that we spoke about, which is coming up for all of us, is the referendum for this building itself that we sit in, the municipal center. So we are putting together the road show, as we call it, to make sure we communicate why it's so important. And Mr. Ricky, I'm looking at you because you and I know, spoke to this, to the gentleman that came forward. I again think it's critical to make sure that residents are clear that this building was not anything but a thinking outside the box approach to the failed referendums at the town hall. This building itself was never before the public for a referendum. This is a new approach because the referendums at the town hall failed. So we are trying to be fiscally responsible and do what's in the best interest of the town. So we talked about that too. And if you want to elaborate.
I just want to say that, I want to make sure I say this correctly. I wasn't opposed to this building when we first did it. I was opposed to the departments that came here as opposed to the departments that stayed at the town hall. And in hindsight, looking back and looking where we are now, I think this was a fantastic idea. I think it's worked out very well. And just a backdrop as to that is because I thought departments that needed to be kind of cohesive, like visited by title searchers and appraisers and attorneys and all that, kind of needed to be together at that building downtown. And if you have to have two separate buildings, I think this is as good as it gets. And we have to have two separate buildings, and I would never remove the building from the center of town, ever. I think this works out great, and I hope that the community kind of comes together and sees the financial benefit, which is the most important, of this building, and come see the building. I mean, it functions well for an old school. You wouldn't even know it's an old school, really. And I think to everyone's benefit in the community, financially and for usability, this turned out really, really good. And so I guess could say I was wrong. I was wrong.
Aside from...
I don't think you hear me say that too often. I was wrong.
Yeah, but a lot of us had doubts and were unsure.
Yeah.
I mean, you know?
Yeah.
Well, it wasn't just a lot of
What's
us.
gone on in the how long have we been here, Mark?
8 years.
8 years. Technology. All those people I just mentioned, they don't even have to go to town hall anymore.
I know.
They go here.
Right.
But we still need places to house our staff. And
the town hall, our old council chambers, is used quite a bit, and I know that because when I need to reserve it for this, that, or the other thing with regard to meetings, you know, Lara is very helpful with that
Finance still
because,
meets there.
yeah, it's not open a lot.
no,
A lot.
and we got the Community Cultural Arts Center out of the whole deal too. So I think it was a win all the way around. The Arts Center.
Oh, right. Oh, yeah.
And aside from the financial benefit, obviously, there is a synergy, I think, especially in terms of human resources,
Yeah.
how it's shared between
Youth-
the Board of
youth
Education.
services.
Youth services with STEPS and the Board of Education work. Phenomenal synergy between those departments. So it really is positive. So again, the voters will have a say. Ultimately, it will be up to them in November.
Let me just make a comment. And if any council person wishes to, I know several volunteered and several almost volunteered. But
Big
if you
forced.
want to either join me or go on your own to any of the service clubs, let me know because I'm filling up the sheet as we go. Just give me a call and see if there's anything, if you're interested in anything.
Okay. So that essentially was the Committee of the Chairs meeting. Any questions about that? All right. So moving on to Public Works, Chairman Barry.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The Public Works Committee met on September 5th, which was last Thursday. Pretty lengthy meeting. One of the major items that came up was the Center Street sidewalk replacement. The Public Works heard information concerning the replacement of 11 crosswalks in downtown Southington. The committee did recommend the award of the contract to Martin Lavero for a cost of $214,000, $624, and there are additional costs for public safety that would be added on to that. The replacement crosswalks will consist of pavers set in a mortar bed on a 6-inch concrete base. So that's a slightly different process that was originally planned down there, but I will let Mr. Schode explain that a little bit further. Mr. Lombardi did ask for some price differences in terms of setting the pavers in mortar versus sand, and I believe Mr. Schode also has the difference in price. What's important to realize that it's important to have keep our downtown area pristine. It is important to have the crosswalks safe. It's also important to have them look good. And I think for all the businesses and all the work that's been happening over the decade downtown Southington, the town has to continually keep up with maintenance and do what's necessary to be proud of our downtown. We also were...
Let me
Yep,
comment
go
now.
ahead, yep.
Thank you.
Yep.
Yeah, a couple of things. Number one is the first thing is we all know about the crosswalks. Some are up, some are down, some are missing. And we tried to make them safe. I know that I think I was standing next to Reverend Triano during the parade, and that was one of the first things she said to me, look at those things. And so we've been trying to work on this as much as possible. We did not know if the funds were going to be available because we had to do other sidewalks first. It became available, obviously, thanks to this particular board and the Board of Finance, who allowed me to put $250,000 from budget reallocation in the spring. So this is a perfect time for us to do it. We do have a contractor who's available to start right after the Apple Harvest Festival. They'll be doing all the crosswalks and they'll be doing over a 4-week period. Obviously, we've used the contractor before. Valentine and Laredo have been doing all our sidewalks, so it's a matter of is getting this done. I do believe that from a visual standpoint, it obviously has to be done. From a safety standpoint, I could tell you it's probably the biggest complaint I get from the people downtown. I know that they say the downtown looks beautiful, but can you do anything about these crosswalks? And I appreciate both the Board of Finance and the Town Council allowing us to move forward on this.
I just want to say it's been a huge goal to try to increase. Obviously, we spent a lot of time and effort in Plantsville over the past couple of years, but we're also investing in our downtown because it is the hub of our community. So,
I forgot to ask, the most important thing is because they're not, this isn't like Rome where you expect it to last forever. So we did ask the question of our professionals, our PE professionals, why do you think it was like this? And what they did is they checked on it, and for whatever reason, I'm sure it was the state of the art back then, it was put into a bed of sand as opposed to a concrete bed, and that's why we got the undulations of the brick. So the Public Works Director and the Highway Superintendent are both recommending that we do a concrete bed, and the bricks go right onto the concrete bed, and therefore you have a solid foundation, and for the rest of our existence, hopefully we'll never have to worry about that part of it. Obviously, there'll be breaking of brick now and again, which could be replaced, but the actual sagging, which is the dangerous part, that's the thing that we hope will be avoided. So, and the difference, I know Mr. Lombardi already knows this, but the difference was about $36,000.
okay. Vice Chairman Sally,
Just
and then-
also that this contractor that we're using was the contractor that we used for the first 3 phases of the downtown project. I don't want to say revitalization, because that's what you worked on 2 decades ago, Mr. Riccio, but whatever.
Yeah, that
we're
was
calling
La
this one.
Rosa.
Pardon?
La Rosa built the sidewalks downtown.
But I'm saying that over the past several years, we've been working on phases 1, 2, and 3
Oh,
down
yeah.
there.
To redo it.
And this is the same contractor, and literally, some of it is piecemeal, where he's down on his, hands and knees having to, and he came in under budget and on time. So, all very positive.
Mr. Lombardi?
I was just, thank you, Mr. Chair. I was going to expand on Councilman Barry's comments, and I think it's mostly been addressed, but the current crosswalks that are being repaired have lasted 17 years with an inferior method. And we at the Public Works Committee did ask the question because we wanted to know, what is the price difference? So to spend the extra $35,000 to get a product that should last possibly more than 30 years, you never know, but for an inferior product to last 17 years, we felt, I think it was a unanimous vote of support for this process. And we understand that it's a lot of money, but we have 17 years of experience with the current method, so I think it was important to point that out.
Are the pavers are going to be new?
The entire crosswalk's going to be new.
Oh, because the paver technology today versus 17 years ago is vastly
They
different.
did actually mention that as well. The pavers that are currently there. They talked about them not being resistant to salt, and the new ones are. The new technology was discussed by our town engineer.
And as the Vice Chair mentioned, we just went over phases 1, 2, and 3 of the bricks. Those are the new ones also, so. Anyway, we should have, obviously, we love our downtown. We want to make it look as best as possible, and now that we're working on Plantsville, within the next two plus years, we'll have 2 beautiful areas of our downtown.
Exactly.
Yep, I think everyone on the committee was unanimous in their support of staff's position on this. So thank you to everyone that is going to work on this project. The committee also talked at great length about the Jude Lane and West Street intersection. That's been a project that's been on the Public Works Committee for quite some time, and the milling did take place Tuesday on September 3rd, and the paving was completed on Wednesday, September 4th. So staff has indicated that they've received nothing but positive results of that project. It's certainly going to allow traffic flow to be better, and I just want to remind the people that this was a town project. There was some confusion that it was a state project. It was not. This is a town road in this section of West Street and Jude Lane, and the town staff worked tirelessly on this upgrade of this intersection. I think they did a really good job. The other issue is Plantsville safety improvements. There is ongoing meetings for utilities and like that, but the important thing is we do want to bring a presentation to the public here at the council meeting, and I will let that will be up to the chairman, Mr. Palmieri, to see if he can fit into one of the future agenda items, so the entire council can see the presentations that the Public Works Committee has seen. That looks like a really exciting project, and in partnership with the state, with their funding, it could be transforming Plantsville in a very positive way. There was great discussion about the leaves and the bids and the costs in terms of the leaf pickup, but I will let the town manager report that during his part of the agenda. The other thing is we talked about was the Everbridge system that occurred over the last week, and there certainly was a glitch, and we do apologize to the public for having to endure several calls. Some people maybe got 6 or 7 calls, but I believe town staff is working with Everbridge to ensure that that does not occur again. So I think
Yes,
that's-
exactly.
yep.
I got 6 myself.
Yeah.
What happened, obviously,
we all
the-
did.
the first one came out without audio, so you had no way of pressing 1 saying you got it. So therefore, without audio, everyone got at least 3 because it just rolled over, called again. And like me, I also get it text to me and email to me. So I was getting 3 times 3 times 3. But as it worked out the second time out, it was better. What we found out when we did the audit of the numbers is that husbands and wives called up to get their number on there, and it was the same number. So they both put their number on, being their home phone number, so they were getting calls from both, and so bottom line was, although it was a pain in the neck for me, because I had, Lara mainly, we received, I believe, no less than 40-something phone calls from the general public asking why am I calling them so many times? But the fact was that it was something that was a little bit annoying, but we did learn a valuable lesson, and we did an audit. And bottom line is that it's a great system for 5 years. It was vital for us to use, and it will continue to do so, and we learned a lesson on it. So thanks to Mr. Baker, who took most of the abuse and is handling the glitch issues.
I just had to, I have to agree. That's what people were saying to me too. In the grocery store, at the
Yeah.
carousel, it's like, why'd you guys call us so much the other night? It's like, no, I didn't call you. But this is a great time, and Mr. Lombardi brought this up at our Public Works Committee meeting to sort of re-educate the public. For those people watching saying, well, I didn't get any calls, maybe.
Yep.
How do you sign up to receive notices, announcements?
You do several different things. You can do it from our website. Give me a call at the town manager's office. If any way you wish to receive it, we could do it through your landline. We could do it to your cell phone. We can do it, text it to you if you wish, or we could email it to you. That's the easy part. The other part is decisions you have to make, because we could do it in a geographical area. Several calls I got from people who lived in the South End area toward my house, who said, why in the world did you give me an Everbridge on West Queen Street? When I make those decisions, there are over 160 people alone that work on West Queen Street. I don't know where they live in Southington. I don't even know if they live in Southington, but the fact of the matter is when I make a decision on doing a town-wide one, things like that, the one that Mr. Berry just talked about, West Street is a major access for us when people get into the highways. So we do those generically. The ones we do when we do tarring of roads and the specific roads, we just do a geographic. So the biggest issue that I get is my decision-making of how much I notify and how big of the part of the town I do. That's the one that could be second-guessed more than anything else. But the bottom line is that I'd rather err on the side of caution. If you get the phone call, all right, you're not going to go up West Queen Street that day, so be it, you got the phone call. But it's a great system. Nothing's perfect, and certainly I'm not perfect, but the fact of the matter is that it's a vital system, especially for emergency management and things like this particular aspect of it. So.
Thank you.
Okay, and there's several items, but I'm not going to go through everything. The one last item that was talked about that I brought up was trying to encourage and make Southington a more walkable community, pedestrian-friendly. I think that's something that should be a goal going forward. That was briefly talked about at the Public Works Committee. But we did receive a communication from a constituent who talked about the lack of sidewalks in the vicinity of Stop and Shop and how it was somewhat dangerous for a lot of walkers that might want to get to Stop and Shop. And through further discussion, in the Darling Street area, there are a lot of people that might not have cars, that are elderly, that could walk to Stop and Shop. So hopefully, going forward, the town can develop some type of priority list of where we should put sidewalks in terms of encouraging a more walkable community, a pedestrian-friendly town. And certainly that's maybe one area that we could look at and maybe partner with businesses that would certainly help businesses. So that's a big undertaking. It could be very costly, but those will have to be decisions that will be made for a future council. But I'm very much encouraging that we move forward in terms of a prioritized list of where we should put new sidewalks to enhance public safety and encourage walkers. So that was our meeting. I don't know if anyone has any questions.
Any questions from Public Works? Okay, so moving on, Apple Harvest Festival Committee. A couple updates. First of all, we're very pleased to share publicly and announce the Grand Marshal for this year's parade, which is John Myers. John Myers has been asset to this community through his role at the YMCA. But what's incredible to us is, despite his retirement from the YMCA, he is still overseeing the road race. So, which is a direct asset to the Apple Harvest Festival itself. So each year we look for someone that contributes not only to the town, betterment of the town, but also to the betterment of the festival at large. And Mr. Myers certainly has done that. So it's my pleasure to announce Mr. John Myers is the Grand Marshal for this year's parade. And we'll be sending out a press release sharing that as well. A couple other things coming up. Poster contest is now open for all artists in town. We have 3 categories: middle school age, high school age, and adult. And there's some prizes that could be offered. So information is available on our website, which is southington.org. Just click on the apple. And we ask that the theme be incorporated. This year's theme is Bushels of Family Fun. So again, if anyone is interested in designing the poster for the 51st Annual Apple Harvest Festival, please go to the southington.org website and click on the apple for the Apple Harvest Festival, and you can find all the information there. We're also calling for all 4th, 5th, and 6th grade students that would like to nominate their grandmother to be the annual Granny Apple for the Apple Harvest Festival. So that's an essay contest, and that is now open for, again, students in grades 4, 5, and 6. This information was shared through the school system, but we want to encourage any residents that have children in those
Grannies.
and one of the qualifications is the grandmother has to be a resident of the town of Southington, so to be Southington Granny Apple. So please, again, go to that website if you want more information about that. Our gala is set for September 26th. Tickets are $40 if anyone, council members and members of the public, are interested. The gala is our kickoff event for the 51st Annual Apple Harvest Festival. It'll be again at the AquaTurf, and again it's $40. If anyone is interested, they can contact Dave LaPrey in the Recreation Office to purchase tickets. And at the next meeting, I have quite a bit of thanks, but we'll hold that to the next meeting. Sponsors, volunteers, committee heads will acknowledge at the next meeting. Just a couple reminders. One of the big features this year, we have our national act this year is the Spin Doctors, and they are coming October 12th at 7:45 p.m. So mark your calendars. I can't believe it's here already, but it's Apple Harvest time.
Yeah.
Any questions for the Apple Harvest Festival?
Exciting.
Okay. So moving on to the town manager's report. So, Mr. Shota?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The first thing I have is the that time of year again, leaf pickup. I'm happy to say we had 6 different contractors bid, 5 from Southington, 1 from out of Southington. You'll read what the superintendent recommends for you, all of them. She put this year's bid a couple of different ways that she can possibly use them, so it gives her a little bit of more tools in her basket. I do think that you'll notice that the second bidder was the out-of-town bidder, and the other Southington bidders all matched that bid. So we had a low bid from Southington, the second was out of town, and then the Southington contractors chose to meet the second bidder number. So there'll be some savings on that aspect of it.
I just want to, because I had made that note as well, because I was so
Sorry
thrilled.
to take your thunder.
No, I just want to reiterate,
Yeah.
because you didn't say the name of the ordinance. It's the preferred bidding ordinance that this council, last year or whenever it was, modified a little bit, came into play with all of this, and all of our Southington businesses took advantage of it. It's fabulous, and we're saving money as a result.
And obviously, with the Southington contractors, I mean, all 6 contractors are going to be fine. It's always good to have, especially when it comes to leaves and other things, it's good to have them close by because obviously travel time and et cetera. So she's recommending all 6. We plan on using all 6. Any questions on that? The last one is the temporary
Mr.
labor.
Chair.
I'm sorry, Mr. Lombardi?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. To the town manager or the town attorney, whoever it's appropriate to answer the question. I had asked the question at Public Works because I don't recall the council seeing a situation where town staff would be renting a machinery or a truck directly from a contractor. I understand we did it from outside businesses. So we had a discussion at the Public Works just to make sure that this is all covered and it's normal procedure. So I just wanted to put it on the record that town attorney did review this type of operation and give the council a statement on that.
Yes, I did speak to the town engineer. I believe it was the day after. Superintendent. I apologize. And she assured me that all the bidders do carry their own insurance that is required. So not only would we have coverage under workers' comp carrier for our town, but the bidders would also be providing insurance as well.
Just as an example, I know that I spoke to the councilman earlier. We do this quite often with Home Depot. We've done it with Superior. So our guys do operate equipment. It's not out of the ordinary, but it was a good question, and the town attorney did clear it up for all of us. So it worked out well.
Did that answer your question?
Yes.
Okay. The second item I have is for the temporary labor. As you know, also what they use for their tool basket is to use temporary labor when necessary. So we had one bidder for $16.06, and we recommend that bidder. Happy any questions on that? The last item I have is some good news, and first I want to thank Reverend Brown and the congregation of the First Congregational Church. As you know, we've had a long-standing lease for what I'll call the easterly side of the Riccio parking lot. The westerly side of the Riccio parking lot, and it's been on a one-year lease period for the last maybe 5 or 6 years. So the Reverend and myself, as well as members of the Apple Harvest Committee, we're talking about doing trying to get a more firm time frame, and we did agree on a 10-year lease. They have become a partner with the Apple Harvest Festival. They will now be one of our sponsors for the Apple Harvest Festival, and there'll be a couple of things that our crews do in the cleanup area, which is certainly nothing that's going to cost any additional money since the crews are already there. And I do believe they've been a great partner over the last, I think, 25 years since we've had this. And I'm happy to see that we'll be on board for another 10 years with them, and I'll be happy to answer any questions on that.
That's awesome.
I just want to echo your thanks to the church, and we appreciate it because it is a true partnership, especially every year at the festival. So please, on behalf of the council, extend our thanks again for them agreeing to this lease.
And that's my report, Mr. Chair.
Okay, any questions for the manager? Okay, so moving on, Town Attorney.
Yes, just very briefly, Mr. Chairman. I know this has been off the radar for some time, but the matters of the council chat FOIA complaints have been concluded. Both matters, which started at the beginning of the year, had to go through a whole administrative process, but Attorney Sheffy did handle those to the benefit of the town, and those are now both resolved.
To our favor.
Hallelujah.
Your favor, yes.
Thank you.
Hallelujah.
So just to reiterate, I just need to reiterate, the point of these were for the vice chair and myself to have an opportunity for residents to come forward and share with us any concerns they had. There was no set agenda. And we know it's intimidating for people to come forward at a meeting and talk in a microphone. And it is on TV and televised, and it's unnerving to some people. So all we were trying to do is have an opportunity to allow residents to come talk to us, bring us concerns that we can then share with the council as a whole. That's all we were trying to do. That's all we've ever done.
Right.
So I appreciate hearing the resolution that the state agreed that there was no finding of any wrongdoing with that.
Correct.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, are you going to restart them since I kind of, you put on hold because of this whole complaint?
Yeah, I mean, we were exasperated. It was very frustrating.
We
Great community outreach. I think
Absolutely.
it was, maybe a lot of people didn't show up, but you never know.
We don't have one scheduled yet, but we can certainly talk about that. And now that we've got the resolution, that certainly gives us the true green light to move forward. Okay, so moving on to public communication, the microphone is open to any resident that would like to speak. We ask residents to limit their comments to 5 minutes and just start by stating their name and address for the record.
Still? Third meeting in a row? Incredible. Must have been Italy too.
Hi, I'm Bob Sargent, 25 Birchcrest Drive. Yeah, hi, You know, last year, a little over a year ago, we enacted an ordinance about excessive police calls. And, well, you know, I mean, we do have the ordinance, and, you know, before it was enacted, before it even went to the public, in between when it first went to the public and when it was voted on, it was changed. And both Kelly and John told me, you know, they voted against it because, well, Kelly said point blank, it's useless, and I knew that at that time. It was. Unfortunately, it was completely useless. And, you know, been another year. Heard a lot of numbers up here tonight. 8 years on this. I've been dealing with this crap for 8 years. 30 grand for a kitchen, and I appreciate you bringing up watching our money. Peanuts compared to the hundreds of thousands spent on my street for nothing, for services. So what has changed in the last year with the ordinance now is, well, for one thing, you know, I got some numbers on the police calls. They don't match the actual number of police calls. Not even close. Calls I made aren't on it. I got the calls. I got what the calls are for. Now, if I make a call about a car being parked the wrong way in the middle of the road down there, they don't respond. Oh, I'm sorry, what did I get? I called once when DCF was down there and parked the wrong way in the middle of the road. 4 police cars there. Nah, we got no one to look at that. We don't have time, but if we do later, maybe we will. Well, that never went as a call. So I got a letter from, and some of you people are on my emails. And so I got a letter back from Billy Palmieri. Oh, I'm sorry about that, miscommunication, all kinds of nonsense. Did it again. And you saw that email, no reply on that, nothing. Don't even bother replying. I went through, who has helped me a lot, Steve Kalkowski and Vicky, met with them. Same day, 4 police cars and an ambulance while you were meeting at that group home. Now what they do is the ambulances stage around my house waiting because every call now brings an ambulance. Doesn't matter what it's for. They say, well, they think one of the kids might be suicidal. So I asked in emails, well, what are we running down here? Because we did have 4 or 5 suicide attempts in 1 week. They had emptied the house, they had kids running. They had a girl that the last thing we heard on the police communication was she had the knife to her throat. Don't even know if she died. We don't know. We never find out. You know, we've seen kids come back there the next day all bandaged up. They bring them right back. I asked if they were running a psych hospital and for somebody to look into that. Billy Palmieri said, nah, it's not. Nobody looks into anything. Nobody cares. Nobody cares. People took themselves right off the email. Nobody cares. Jack Daly's off the email. Nobody cares. Nobody answers. Nobody cares. The place is turned into a zoo. They moved the suicidal. They moved the kids now that are you know, suicidal, mentally ill, whatever you want to call it, because they know that's not going to count against the ordinance. The numbers aren't right. Nobody keeps track. I've asked for an accounting on it. Can't get that. Can't get anything. Nobody cares. You worried about 30 grand on a sidewalk? Today I got neighbors that moved on to Hemlock with kids this big. Coming down here, they're out on Birchcrest on a bicycle. They didn't understand it. I had to go back to their parents and tell them, get those kids the hell off that road, because if they come up here at 70 miles an hour, they're gonna kill your children. They didn't even know about this, because we got a nice peaceful neighborhood until it turns into an animal house. 10 years of this. Easily over 1,000 police calls. And people are taking their names off an email because they don't want to hear it. Our police chief did. I don't get answers on anything. You know, we had an ordinance. Dawn had asked that he comes back up after a year. You know, I asked Vicky on it too. Never come back up. Nobody cares. You're worried about $20,000 and $30,000 here. Someone's going to die up there. I've said this before, and it might be my kid. It's been quiet the last few weeks, but that's it'll turn into a zoo again, absolutely. And there's nothing, I asked last Halloween, could we have a cop up there? Nope, can't do it. But when a neighbor complained about the stop-and-go drug dealing, because they were coming down, dropping off drugs to the kids there and flying out, and we were watching this. Our police department saw a good opportunity to put a cop down there for probably a total of 50 hours at that stop sign because they went flying through the stop sign. And make sure as payback, they ticketed 27 residents of my neighborhood for complaining. That's what we get. That's the help we get up there. And you're worried about $20,000, $30,000 on brickwork downtown. We got a whole street to worry about up there. And no one cares. Thank you.
Thank you. I just want to just respond to one thing that you said, Mr. Sergeant. I don't want to speak for everyone else, but I do care. So I take offense to you telling this council that nobody cares when I know that many members... Please. I know that many members up here have gone out of their way to try to help you. So to sit here and say that no one cares, and I can also tell you that the police department has gone out of their way to assist. We tried passing an ordinance to help you while staying within the framework of the law to do everything we can to assist you. So all I'm saying is we are still with you and we will do what we can, but I take offense to you sitting here and telling us that nobody cares. Thank you. So
there are many things that can be done to change this, many, and nothing's being done.
Okay, we're going to move on.
Nothing.
The microphone is still open for any resident that would like to speak.
Based on Mr. Sargent's comments, is there any way we can get that updated report? Because I remember when we did pass the ordinance, we all talked about how we were going to see the results.
I'll talk to the chief and Billy tomorrow and see if they want to update us on maybe at the next meeting or the meeting after.
Yeah,
Sure, and that was the first I've heard of that tonight.
Yeah,
So,
and I would like, when you're doing that, Mark, if you could, please, I would like to see the increase of medical calls. Because in the ordinance, as you all know, there was a framework of exclusionary language that said if it's a medical call, it does not affect, right, Carolyn, attorney?
We want to make sure they're not skewed.
So we want to make sure that, what's the increase in the medical calls there, and see where that is and how that's increased. And I think that's going to be important for us for future discussion.
Very good.
okay. Thank you.
Good evening. Fareed Shafiq, 357 Andrew Street in the great town of Southington. I wanted to begin my comments by thanking all of you. I was not aware of a lot of things, but to simplify it, to thank all of you as this legislative session is ending, and some will be returning, some not returning, but regardless of your affiliation, whether I voted for you or not, I've come to realize more and more over time how much effort and how much sacrifice you put in relative to for all of your families and for your dedication to your own well-being and time. And for this, I want to thank you. Whether it's been done before by anyone else, I want to take this opportunity for all these years I've lived here in Southington. And I use that as an introduction because I've often mentioned to some of you that I don't believe in the concept of Republican and Democrat on a local level. My concept has always been who is the person who's going to be at heart, with heart, and for heart for the sake of the people of Southington. And I really don't think that these party affiliations and labels really have any pertinence or matter or even in my thought as to how I press the lever or mark off as to who I'm voting for. And, the national things should stay where they are. and the local things are such that we are a family, whether we agree with each other, and sometimes we disagree, and so on and so forth. But I also use that as a starting point to bring to your attention some of the points that were brought forth at the meeting with Hartford Healthcare at Bradley campus 2 Thursdays ago, the last Thursday of the month of August. And one of the things that troubled me was their identification that they wanted to meet separately with each caucus. And that bothered me deeply because there is an aspect of divide and conquer. And you may agree with each other, disagree with each other, so be it. Agree with me or not disagree, I couldn't care less. But the concept is there has to be a cohesive aspect for how the town proceeds in being able to get what is best in terms of health care for this town. So I would hope that the town council look at this in unison and in unity rather than in separatism, which will bring a very bad conclusion for everybody for the town. Comment number one. The next one is relative to the ambulances, which has not been addressed. And one of the points that was brought up at this meeting is that the emergency room is going to be moved, and they're eventually going to file. So there isn't an aspect of potential for them to even reason or think. But as a resultant point from that, the ambulances will be doing double duty, because in essence, the emergency room, as it's shifted over to Queen Street, will become a staging area for either triage for local healthcare or health work, or to be shipped out either to Mid-State or to Hartford Hospital or New Britain General or so on. And the ambulance costs, as I understand it and as I see it from my patients, and I repeat, with the amount of patients I see at 9,200 office visits per year, gives me a very strong pulse on the community, and the base for my office is higher in content for those who are of senior years, and it is a huge concern on their part, and it has to be addressed. And I can give a whole series of possibilities on how Hartford Healthcare can work for the senior population in terms of funds, as well as being able to facilitate the insurance companies, so on and so forth. The next point that was brought up is the surgical center that is at the hospital, which is a for-profit and an independent practice situation, will be moving to Cheshire, and they have filed the paperwork the following week from that meeting. So their respect for having put that surgical center in terms of care for the people of Southington will be moving out. The point to be made in that is money was taken from the Bradley Barnes Fund to assist with the renovations that were done there. And the question that I plainly asked was, will that money be reimbursed to the fund, being that the cause for those funds were for the safety and well-being and care for the people of Southington, despite the fact that that surgical center is a for-profit situation. And there was no reply, and they mentioned they weren't quite sure of what I was talking about. And the other aspect that I tried to hold them to the fire on the issue was, if they're talking separately about the numbers in the emergency room as having gone down, then were they willing to concede that the numbers at the urgent care center that they opened bled numbers from the emergency room, and that those numbers should be combined and coalesced together with any discussion that would come forward? And then the last thing that was mentioned is that the emergency room over at Queen Street is going to be tripled in size and care. And that is an issue of concern relative to the traffic situation. The last point, I know my time is expiring, but I came to realize some of the writings in the newspaper as it was brought to my attention by my office manager. And I would like to present a couple of words of support for the town council chairman. Now, if there is an aspect of any thought that a person of this dignity that has conducted himself in the years, whether I've reflected on this in council chambers or not, to be accused of aspects of on his integrity and strength, I find it very difficult, because at any point I can point at every single one of the people on the dais and be able to say there's a conflict of interest. When you have a contractor come to your house, when you are talking to somebody in the grocery store, when you have family members, when there's land, when there's real estate transaction, everybody is going to be at issue. And if this is allowed to carry forward, then every person will have to give an aspect of accounting for every minute of their day, who they spoke to, what they were talking about, and so on. And this is a small town, and we don't need to get into that characteristic. I also find it very nice that we do have a principal who is able to speak civics to our young people and to be an example for them, to show them that the dignity that he has conducted himself in the town council chambers are the same by which he does in the street, as well as in the confines of the school environment. And that's very important to laud and to compliment. I also want to say that although and I don't mean this in an insulting fashion, none of you at the dais are my friends, because I don't have that much interaction to be able to say that. But I will say that I've had interactions with all of you, and I find you all with the regard of looking out for what is best for the town. I hope that the town council is able to stand by the chairman for the sake of being able to say that the nastiness that has enveloped different communities, as well as the national level, does not enter Southington, and that we turn into a situation where we are no longer neighbors and friends and able to conduct ourselves as an extended family. And this is an issue that should be addressed for all of you, because if it is allowed for this person, then it will carry forward to all of you. Once the genie's out of the bottle, it's going to happen. And with that, I repeat, I'm very proud of this town. I've now completed 21 years here, and in my regard, I'm happy with everything about this town. It's a nice place, and I thank you, as I did in my opening comments, for all that you have done and made this town very nice for me, as well as everybody else. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other residents would like to speak? Microphone is open. Last call for any residents. Okay, so we'll close public communication and move on to old business, which is first item is action on fall leaf pickups. Looking for a motion to approve.
I'll make that motion, sir.
We have a motion and we have a second. Is there any other discussion? Okay, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay, the bid is accepted as suggested. Item B, action on leaf pickup temporary labor.
Mr. Chair, I'll make that motion as well.
Okay, we have a motion to approve as suggested. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second. Any other discussion? All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That passes. And action on Riccio parking lot lease.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I would move that we accept the negotiation with the action for Riccio parking lot.
Excellent. We have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a second. 2 seconds. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Great. That passes unanimously as well. Moving on to new business. Tax refunds. Mr. Lombardi?
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve the taxpayer refund list as presented in our package.
Okay, we have a motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That passes. And the final motion of the evening. Looking for a motion to
Mr.
adjourn.
Chairman, I would move to adjourn our meeting.
All right, we have a motion to adjourn. Is there a second?
Second.
A motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, we are adjourned. Thank you all.